Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Xaereth Prevails, a Grand Arena story. I've got a pretty interesting one for you guys today. We're in week 2, match 2 of 3v3 championships. Right now I am undefeated, 4-0, and trying to go 5-0, of course. Always want to win, but I'm facing a dude who's playing the ultimate Rey team that is considered by some to be undefeatable, which means they're taking Han and Chewie as their second and third wheel on the team, and it is a really tough team. There are a lot of really great things going for it. You know, Chewie provides a lot of healing for Rey. He also makes it so you can't crit her. The team is really strong, and you know, people are acknowledging its greatness in droves of hundreds and thousands. You know, my buddy Indigo posted a thing recently about the unkillable, unbeatable Rey squad. Overnight, instantly, everyone's taking it. You know, Klesso is putting it on defense, Endal Bial's putting it on defense, and my opponent is putting it on defense. So we get to observe me trying to deal with that, and I guess we'll see what happens, but don't worry, Internet. I got you. Before I get into this video, do want to give a huge shout out to my patrons. Really appreciate the support, guys. Truly, really means the world to me. So after we got paired for the second round, my opponent, whose name is Toby Sum, subscribed to my channel, and so the secret was immediately out, and honestly, you know, I knew that they were going to be prepared for this match, and you know, that's just an added element to the fun of being a YouTuber. So let's see where that brings us.
An Imperial probe droid.
It's a good bet the Empire knows we're here.
Alright, so let's kick this thing off. So far, I've been undefeated, and you know, that feels pretty good. 3v3 is an enigma to many people, including myself at times. Facing off against a dude named Toby Sum. Not sure what's up with the Sum part. You know, you'd think it'd be Toby All or Toby None. That tends to be how I am with these kind of games, but my opponent has also been undefeated so far. They told me before the match that no one has beat their Rey yet, and I believe it. Really strong Rey, really strong roster. Looking at our stats, my opponent has me beat in high-end relics for the most part. Neither of us have tier 6, which I thought was kind of funny. Otherwise, I have a slight advantage in Zetas. I think the biggest piece here is I have 17 more Gear 13s. Our mods are pretty similar. I have a slight advantage, I would say, though actually they have one more faster, plus 25 mod, so crazy. The other factor is my opponent has 280k lifetime banners, but what's more impressive is he has that despite missing a week of 3v3, which is an insane amount. Like, basically has the same amount of banners as me, and they placed 13th at the end of one season. So like a legitimately strong opponent, and you know, going into this match I was not sure what they were going to place. I was pretty sure they'd place Darth Revan and they'd place their Rey team. I wasn't sure what iteration of Rey, but you can see they did put Darth Revan, like the full Darth Revan squad, and that is problematic to the extreme. And then of course they placed the new hotness Ultimate Rey with Han and Chewie. These guys are excellently modded, really fast, and I needed to take them out first. So after practicing in the arena for a long time, my good buddy Johnny on the spot came in the clutch here. We're taking Supreme Leader Kylo here, and the goal isn't to kill Rey. We can't do that. We can't one-shot Rey. What we can do is hopefully take out both Han and Chewie at the same time, or in one strike. You know, and if I get lucky, maybe I'll be able to you know, get my ultimate up. But the fact is, Chewie was protecting them from getting crit for a long time, and therefore I couldn't move my numbers hardly at all. I've tested this quite a few times, and every iteration, even if Han and Chewie kill either Hux or First Order officer, this does work. You can take out both Han and Chewie one way or another. This was just one variation of that scenario, and now we're doing double hits with Kylo, hoping that I can get my ultimate up, but it's a little too late, and Rey does almost 300k to my Supreme Leader, and that's all she wrote.
Sir, rubber ships are coming into our sector.
Good. Our first catch of the day.
Alright, so we took out Han and Chewie. That means that obviously Chewie and Han are not providing all of these benefits. I will say that Han is also really good because he always kills burner characters. So you have to spend more burner characters if you want to do this. So I've tested this a ton of ways as well. Johnny on the spot, once again, coming in clutch. We can't let Rey get her ultimate. That does not work. So I tried actually originally to put Grandmaster Yoda in instead of Thrawn. That never worked. I tried it 3 times, didn't ever come close to working. But I could only test against a full health Rey, and so I wasn't sure what to do here. She's got her invulnerability, and I didn't want to fracture her because I couldn't actually kill her if that happened. If she just remained in her invulnerable state until Thrawn's next turn, that wasn't going to help me. So I just did my basic with him and instead waited to fracture her until now, and now we can just pummel Rey to our heart's content and just try the best we can to take her out. Now I will say, I realize that this is an extremely expensive counter. We're using Supreme Leader Kylo, Jedi Revan, and General Skywalker, and all I have to say is that this Rey team is strong enough. It's 2 meta teams in and of itself. It's Rey and it's the Commander Luke team, just without Commander Luke. So, I'm using a bunch of meta tunes. They're using a bunch of meta tunes. I feel like it's not quite even, but it's close enough, honestly, for it to be worthwhile to me, especially because I don't otherwise have a counter to Rey.
The first transport is away.
Alright, so after we beat this unkillable team, I still had a Grand Arena to try to win. And, you can see here, I couldn't decide on what team I wanted to take. You can see on this graphic, you can see all my teams that I wanted to start using. I wanted to... there's a ton of different teams I wanted to use. I wanted to use Traya, actually, to counter both of these teams. I could use Nihilus on one and Traya on the other, and I decided I wanted to save those. So I figured I'd take Phasma here. I have AoEs on all 3 of my characters here. They're all high relic, and, none of these characters are really very good. And as long as I could just take out Daka at some point, that would work. Clearly didn't work, though. You can see we skipped all the way down to timing out, and eventually I killed Acolyte, so I didn't have to deal with her anymore, and timed myself out. Stupid.
He felt surprise was wiser.
He is as clumsy as he is stupid.
And honestly, that was just... It sucks to come away with what you feel like is a pretty good victory in beating that Rey team, and then just stumble on a really obvious timeout team that I've countered a million times. Just really frustrating that I did that. It happens though. So the one good silver lining to all of this is I can use Mandalorian. He's only gear 10 at 4 stars. So he's not great, but I did have one issue, though, and that is Grief and Dengar both like to be in stealth, which means that Mandalorian gets to get focused down on because he's the only one not in stealth sometimes, and so that's just something to keep in mind. Maybe Dengar isn't the most inspired bounty hunter leader for Mando. I just wanted one that I could easily get my contract. As it stands, it's pretty cool. I got my contract way faster than I thought I would, and I actually got Disintegrate off 2 out of 2 times, so kind of cool. And yeah, happy enough to be able to use that team. I haven't used Mando yet in 3v3. That was a pretty good assignment for him. And now we have this Old Ben lead with Watt and Night Sister Spirit. And this team would be a lot scarier if Spirit was relicked. As it stands, Spirit is gear 12. I didn't want to use anything too weak. I'd already failed too many times. That DACA loss, it just sucked. And I knew I was going to lose at least one time against the Darth Revan team. So I decided to take Jedi Training Rey. I'm saving R2-D2 here in case I can work on the feat a little bit. There's a feat that if I use Old Ben and R2-D2 on the same squad, then I get some extra banners, and that's, I'm trying to do all the feats and everything, so figured maybe there would be a squad in the back, an opportunity to be able to do that. And so honestly, the squad is good because Old Ben, I have to kill Old Ben first. He has both Zetas, and so when you kill him, it buffs the rest of the squad. The problem is, he's not that hard to chew through if you use the right squad, and then Spirit's just not doing much damage because she's only gear 12. So, the squad has a lot of potential, but it's not quite as good. So, you can see in the back zone that they have a lot of easy squads, but now we really need to focus down this Darth Revan squad, which is extremely problematic. The way I'm going to do it, the way I've approached it in the past, I don't have a mirror match to be able to beat them. Their Darth Revan is faster anyways. So what we're doing is we're going to send in a squad of burners to just have them kill all of the special attacks, special moves on this team, and then we can send in the Commander Luke team to try to kill Badstilla.
Right now I feel like I could take on the whole Empire myself.
I know what you mean.
So the next step of this really drawn-out tactic is we need to take out Bastila. We have other teams that can beat the Darth Revan and Malak combo, but Bastila messes everything up. So Commander Luke, there's no better alpha strike in the game than Commander Luke, and if we can take Bastila out, then we're going to be good to go. She is modded with a ton of extra health. Of course, she gets a huge bonus from health just using the Darth Revan lead, and I lost Chewie pretty early on, and Bastila no longer she just didn't die. she no longer didn't not have health. I don't know what I'm saying. She didn't die, and that's hugely problematic. I can't finish that team off without her dead, and the only other team I could think of that could actually reliably, maybe reliably take her out is this Padme squad. So the sole focus here in this fight is to take out Bastila. I don't care about the rest of them, and in fact, I don't want to take out Darth Revan. We need Darth Revan in order to be able to counter this team using my other characters that I want to use. I want to use Bounty Hunters as my finishing blow, and you need the Darth Revan lead. As counterintuitive as that is, we want Darth Revan to live, and I'll show you guys why in just a minute, but as it stood, I didn't really have the choice to kill Darth Revan anyways.
Bounty Hunters. We don't need that scum.
Yes, sir.
So, happily, I did take out Bastila, and now we can use Bosk Lead to take out Darth Revan, and I'm actually going to speed it up a little bit here because this fight does last a while. We can get rid of Darth Revan pretty quick with an execute because of all of their stacks of debuffs, and honestly, these stacks of debuffs are what make it possible to counter this team, so that this Malak has way over 100% tenacity, so normally we're not going to be able to land many debuffs on him, but because of those stacks of debuffs on him, he's susceptible. He's minus 15 tenacity for each stack on him, so that's minus 75, and honestly, he's still pretty tough to land debuffs on, but between Jango and Boba, they have execute and whatever the rocket pack thing is that Jango has, they can get healing immunity onto Jango or onto Malak, and eventually, hopefully, they can take him out. Now, it works better in 5v5 because you can take Dengar, who gives tenacity down to Malak, and then you can land all the debuffs. But as it stands, this Malak is extremely well modded, really tough to take out, and honestly, I expected to take him out way easier than I actually did. And he just kept coming back. Every time he was really close to dead, he just remained alive and came back with almost full health. So takes a while. Just got to keep pushing buttons. You don't want to time out, but as it stands, because he keeps generating all these debuffs, it heals my bounty hunters a lot, and just, you know, they don't die. It takes them a really long time to die. And as you can see, he keeps doing all his moves. He has 3 stacks. He's tough to kill. He keeps coming back. And eventually Boba did lose his bounty hunter's resolve, but I did manage to take him out. So I beat this really crazy Darth Revan squad, and that is wonderful. Ultimate Rey team with Han and Chewie, and that's all great, but man, there's still 7 really decent to strong teams on the board, and I don't have many options to deal with them. I've wasted so many teams. Commander Luke, Padme, and Bounty Hunters, all 3 to try to take out that Darth Revan squad, not to mention all of those invaluable Tuskens that were sacrificed, and then Jedi Revan and General Skywalker are gone, and Thrawn, just tons of characters gone, Supreme Leader Kylo. And so this Dooku team with Nest, this is a Relic 7 Nest, which is crazy, tough to beat. And the Kylo team, though, is so good with this. Kylo with Watt. So you give the taunting tech to Kylo, of course. And that means that Dooku and Droideka, at least, have to hit Kylo. And, you know, so he's going to get stunned a bunch. But we don't need him for anything other than the occasional, you know, he can stun, he can do whatever. Watt, I misclicked. I should have actually just cleansed Kylo Ren unmasked, you know, just to heal him a little bit more, but it doesn't really matter. You know, in the end, we just take out Droideka and Dooku. I don't know, this is a pretty easy counter, just because First Order Executioner does crazy damage at Relic 5 with the weapons tech, and we just called it good. So beat that team. The real question, you know, I did that match because I knew that Kylo Ren wasn't going to be that useful against General Grievous, and what I decided, I needed to take out Grievous. He was by far the most dangerous. My only real team that I thought had a good shot at doing it was going to be Traya, and Traya is kind of a death trap against General Grievous. She's not great unless you have like Bastila. In 5v5, Traya's fine as long as you have other support elements, but you know, I haven't done 3v3 with Traya before, and after a while of thinking and looking at it, I decided like the real problem here is Magna Guard is just going to be taunting forever, and of course General Grievous is going to get some turns. You know, I figured at the very least, though, I could probably kill B1, and if I could do that, maybe I could whittle down General Grievous. You know, I figured that can be my goal, is kill B1 and maybe just finish this team off if my hunch was correct. So you put Isolate on Magna Guard, and after that, you know, I just hit B1 a lot, and you know, it did Force Drain when it was available, and lo and behold, Nihilus got the kill on Grievous, and now, you know, we're looking like we're gonna win. Like there's not much hope for poor old Magna Guard here, isolated as he is, both on, you know, mechanic wise and and just physically isolated. He's on quarantine. He is done, and Scion gave him the last dose of COVID, and we called it good. So yeah, beat General Grievous with Traya. I don't know if that works. I don't think it works if B2 is with them, but happily Magna Guard was with them instead, so I will take that. And now we have one last squad we have to beat to be able to get to the back zone and ships. And at that point I figured, you know, my opponent had a lot of weaker squads in the back. I'm running on fumes, but if I can take this Nute team out with a minimum of investment, then that's going to be great. So taking Bastila here, I have Grandmaster Yoda available still because normally he goes with Jedi Knight Revan, but he didn't this time because Revan took General Skywalker and Thrawn to counter that Rey team. So the goal here, we have to be hitting B2 if we can. I was hoping to stun Nute there just because Nute does all of his extortion and annoying debuffs. He's really the soul of that team, but of course that didn't work, and we need to kill B2 here because he's just going to dispel all of our buffs, and you know, he's going to take a million turns unless we kill him first. So you know, of course he's super resilient. You'll note that I pay off extortion every single time I get it, and I feel like that's something I don't see very often in Grand Arena streams. I don't know, people don't pay the extortion, and extortion speeds this squad up so dramatically and it makes them do so much more damage because of all that extra speed and everything. You want to pay extortion. I know it sucks, it's not fun to pay it, it sucks, but man, you need to pay it. It's so important. So as it stands, I did manage to take out Nute finally. He has 2 lives, of course. And then Jango was only gear 12, so I took him out. And 54 banners was kind of a surprise, kind of nice to get. But, you know, we got the win. And now we see there's Malevolence in the back. That's pretty cool. We need to take out these squads here, though, in the front, or in the back. They're not super strong teams, but on the other hand, I'm running on fumes. Literal fumes. Maybe not literal, but I was going to have to use characters in teams that I had not used before. Split up teams. I was going to be spread very thin.
Only 2 fighter escorts per shift.
2 fighters against a Star Destroyer?
Good luck.
Okay, everybody to your stations. Let's go.
After looking at all of these teams for a little bit, I decided there wasn't really a great target for Nest to just solo. I wanted banners, of course. I was hurting for banners. Failed so many attacks, but as it stood, there was one team I felt like maybe I would stand a chance as long as I had her sufficiently buffed. And so, you know, C-3PO is going to put Confuse on Nest, so I can't get counters very often. So I decided to just increase her tenacity using Hermit Yoda, increase her resilience using Qira and her damage, and I think this was actually a little bit of overkill because I just demolished that team. But I got 54, which honestly, you know, 55 it would have been great, but 54 is perfectly fine. You know, I didn't fail, and we got one of the decent teams out of the way. Now we have a team. It's a timeout team. It's just a bunch of tanks, and you know, there's no real huge threat. So what I decided was take Vader, and you know, I've been using that cool team with Vader and Nihilus and Stormtrooper Han. I had plans for Stormtrooper Han though, and frankly, all you need in this case is a tank. I've sped it up a little bit because this match does go for a little bit, but the goal here is honestly just to keep Vader alive. He is Relic 1, I believe, you know, so he's tough to kill. And the goal here is if we can kill Vandor Chewbacca, we need to kill him first if we can, because otherwise he'll just revive the other 2 because they're scoundrels. But if we can take him out, then I have my Death Trooper to put Death Mark on a character and just run through them really fast. As it stood, you know, L3 got all of her stacks of annoyingness off, and it was becoming extremely difficult to actually avoid hitting her. But the beauty of a Vader lead is, as long as you have him Zeta'd, is all of these debuffs can't be dispelled, even by L3. And so if you can take L3 out, then that, you know, that's great. She was on the very edge of being killed, and, you know, Vandor might have been able to revive her, but then I used Terminate with Death Trooper and was able to get the kill, and, you know, L3 could not be revived because I used Terminate on her to finish her off. So that was another decent win, kind of nerve-wracking. Shore Trooper almost died. He sure did. But now we've got Emperor Palpatine and this Ackbar, this machine gun Leia squad. It's not as good as the version with 3PO in it. This R2-D2 is Relic 5 though, so tough to kill. The one cool thing about this, you'll notice that they're all passively taking damage. Every time they take a turn, they're taking damage because Palpatine does % health damage to them every time they take a turn because they're rebels. So, you know, just passively, I'm beating this team. I also out-gear them pretty dramatically. Palpatine is Relic 7, of course, because of the Kylo missions. Marauder is Relic 3 or 4, something like that. And then Sith Trooper is, you know, he's only 12, but it's good enough. So, 52 banners, happy enough to get the win there. And now this Carth team, it doesn't look that dangerous, but I had, like, nothing left. Like, just not much. I mean, I had characters that I could maybe brute force it, but I couldn't afford a fail. I couldn't afford one. You know, I figured my opponent was going to full clear me almost no matter what. And so I decided to take this weird hodgepodge team. I took Old Ben lead, because the evade stuff is fun and turn meter is fun. And then the one weakness this Carth squad has is they don't have a way to dispel at all. So Stormtrooper Han at Relic 7 is going to be really tough for this team to shift. And every time they shoot him, there's all these assists and everything. Every time they shoot him, you can watch Wampa's turn meter. It just keeps going up and up and up. And then there's a moment of vulnerability where Wampa can be hit because Stormtrooper Han's taunt goes away. So I had Old Ben there to be able to taunt. And I didn't have the timing down perfectly, but I think I got it mostly good. And the goal here is, see, I'm not doing that much damage initially, but the cool thing about Wampa is given time, he is able to ramp up his damage to a pretty absurd level, as long as he keeps using his special. And he's not, you know, he's easy to take out. He's really squishy, but as long as you have tanks protecting him and they don't have a way to get around that taunt, then Wampa's going to be, you know, pretty safe. And, you know, one cool thing about this too is the Carth team has a bunch of AoEs, so it keeps hitting Wampa a little bit, which he can handle just a tiny bit. But once he does get hit, then he can counter and add a little damage there. And, you know, it's been a minute and a half, and I've made, like, no progress on Zaalbar. And of course, you know, I'm starting to get concerned, and it's not great. You know, I could eventually, if I had infinite turns, I could beat this team, but I don't have infinite turns or minutes, so instead, you know, we just got to make the best with what we've got, and if I fail, maybe I have other squads that can brute force this squad. I don't know. But as it stands, you know, Wampa is starting to do a marked amount of damage every time he hits Zaalbar, and he keeps ramping up his damage. Old Ben did die, which was unfortunate, but as you can see, Carth and Mission are both not doing too hot either. And now we'll get to the point where when we hit Zaalbar, he's got Retribution, so if we have the taunt up from Han, then Zaalbar is going to hit Han and give everyone turn meter. So the Stormtrooper Han taunt is amazing when you can actually make good use of it. So, you know, in this case, they couldn't dispel it, and I just got a ton of turn meter, and this wasn't pretty, but 50 banners is just fine, honestly.
Hey, steady, girl. Hey, what's the matter? You smell something?
And so it was that Carth and his friends were thusly smote. So we still needed to deal with this malevolence, and it's going to be a challenge potentially. I wasn't sure if my opponent had Millennium Falcon in here. I needed to be careful that that's a timeout threat, and frankly I dropped so many banners here I didn't think that one or two would make a huge difference, and frankly if I can get the full clear here then I have a decent chance at winning because my defenses have been pretty stout this 3v3, and I have some surprises in the back anyways for my opponent, and so I need to guarantee the win if possible. So we start off, we target Sunfac. You note that I have my my 5s starting instead of Ahsoka, and against Malevolence this is what you do, or at least this is one method. I know that other people use Ahsoka in the starting instead of 5s, that's fine, but you want to focus down Sunfac first with this lineup, and the first reinforcement needs to be Plo. Those buzz droids that hit your characters or your ships, the ships have characters, I guess. Those buzz droids will destroy you just really fast, and Plo was going to put an end to that pretty quick. And then you just use Houndstooth, who is consistently taunting, to keep dispelling his own buzz droids because they can only put buzz droids on him. After a while, the next reinforcement can be Ahsoka. At this point, hopefully you've gotten target lock on the other vulture droid that started, and you need to keep track of which vulture droid it was. But once you can take that out, then you just need to take out the hyena. Unfortunately, their Millennium Falcon did come in, and that's an issue because you see we can't target the Millennium Falcon at all right now. We can't really dispel it very easily. We have to take out all of those vulture droids first, so we could potentially time out. Luckily I do have AoEs available. Still need to take out vultures who keep just spawning like crazy. They're like rabbits. And so I hunted them like rabbits, and then just as I was about to take out the Millennium Falcon, then of course the spy comes in, who was easily dealt with. Not many hit points. I have to target spy anyways, and then one big AoE on Falcon finishes it. 64 banners. That's actually pretty strong. 66 was the max because I took max reinforcements, so I only dropped protection on a couple spots. That's great, frankly. So then it took a while to load, and I was afraid that all of my progress was doomed, but not great banners. I'll be the first to admit below 2400 is not wonderful, but for what we had to clear, it was pretty tough. So taking a quick look at my feats before I show you guys the final results, I did manage the needing a back to tank one, and I certainly did need one. And then my opponent sent me a message saying, I'm going to do my battles soon. And, 8 hours later, so soon, there's like, they've been learning from CG. 8 hours later, with 3 hours remaining, my opponent still hadn't attacked, which can feel pretty frustrating, frankly. So I wasn't sure how my opponent would end up doing against my defenses. It was a pretty strong defense, and I was just glad. Frankly, I was glad that I had been able to full clear them. Even with a bad score, I acquitted myself well, and if I were to get a loss, then, at least I went down swinging, so to speak.
Come on!
Switch over. Let's hope we don't have a burnout.
And so this is the board right before my opponent started making their attacks. And here's the board after their attacks were finished. So they did fail to full clear me, which is great. Still haven't been full cleared in 3v3, which is pretty cool. You can see my Grievous got a defense right away, and my opponent said that I don't know what team they used, but they said that was a team that they always win with, so I'm assuming it was Jedi Revan, because that's what they did in GAC history. Up top, they one-shot all of my teams. None of those teams were really probably going to get defense anyways. Darth Revan defended against General Skywalker, so that's wonderful. And then, of course, Geonosians and Night Sisters were left, well, they weren't unscathed, but they did okay. Ackbar actually had two reinforcements come in. I can count. So one last look at the board here. You know, pretty happy with the result. Obviously, it's a win. I got the full clear. Not great banners, but I'll take it. And then, you know, this is just, my opponent saying two teams failed him that had never failed him before. So, probably got a little lucky there. Obviously, I will take it, though. And, so Unkillable Rey has been killed. And honestly, this was a pretty fantastic result. I'm very pleased with it.
Someday you're going to be wrong, and I just hope I'm there to see it.
Someday I will be wrong, and I will fail epically. I've done it in the past. It will happen in the future. But today is not that day. I'm sorry to say. Or happy. Honestly, that makes me happy. So, anyways, folks, I am going to leave you here. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned as my finals opponent has yet another Ultimate Rey. Probably going to do something filthy with it. So, we have that to look forward to. I might try to film it live or something. We'll see. But once again, thank you so much for watching. And remember that in all things, Xaereth prevails.